what's up guys? My name is Zack, and for the last 7 days, I've been driving the 2024 Kia EV6 GT. Below me is a completely electric drivetrain consisting of 2 motors. Now, I am so excited to be sharing this EV6 with you here today for 2 reasons. First of all, it's been a couple years since I've driven the EV6. I drove it when it debuted, when it was hot off the presses, and now I'm excited to share with you my thoughts after it's aged for the last 2 years. But the second reason is that the last car I reviewed was a GT line. It was okay. This is the full GT, which makes 576 all-wheel drive, all-electrical horsepower, and it has been quite the hoot, and I'm excited to share all of its glory here with you today. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that all-electric drivetrain. Well, like I said, it consists of 2 electric motors, giving it not only all-wheel drive, but the instant torque of electricity with 576 horsepower. This thing is fast. It is so blindingly quick that I actually was driving around an Illinois state trooper, who's a friend of mine. Big burly dude, you don't want to get pulled over by him. He deals with drugs and narcotics and criminals all day long. I floored it for him in the car, and he got giddy like a schoolgirl. And so that is the absolute glory and power that the EV6 GT delivers. Now, range will vary. The best I saw was about 280 miles on a full charge, but that is going to depend on your air conditioning controls, the weather, the climate, where you are in the country, the altitude. And so that's the best that I saw. However, charging actually was a lot better than I've had with other EVs, and that's mainly due to the infrastructure around my new house. As you guys know, I moved this month to a new house. There's actually a decently fast charger near me, where in my old house there wasn't. So charging has been a lot better. You can charge from 10% to 80% in 15 minutes if the charger is operating at its peak speed, which of course most public chargers aren't. If you're gonna buy one of these, please, at the bare minimum, please at least consider getting a at-home charger installed. I also have been averaging 3.0 miles per kilowatt hour, which puts it here against the other EVs that I've tested for a week at a time. How does it feel to drive the Kia EV6? Well, it's fun. Driving it normally and simply, it drives like any other electric car. And most electric cars drive in a very similar, if not the same exact way. So there's nothing really new there. But when you do put it into GT mode and you allow for that full 576 horsepower, it feels like a rocket ship and unlike anything else. All right, so we're in eco mode, probably half throttle, GT. Oh boy, you don't move your foot at all. It just goes. It really, truly feels like the NOS button in a Fast and Furious movie. It's so fun. All right, back down to eco, which just feels like the roller coaster's stopping and all the weight comes to your face and you just go, ugh. And then I'll do full throttle, GT. Oh, that is just fun to play with. It's just fun. But with that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a completely digital dashboard. Now, I can change some things in the center, some information that I see. Of course, it is still a Kia product, and so you do get tons of really good information like Kias have always offered. And with the drive modes, you get some colors that change around and things like that, but nothing too crazy. Although when you do turn your turn signal on, it does turn on a blind spot camera, which has been very helpful in my week with the Kia. On the steering wheel, on the left, we have our adaptive cruise control options, as well as lane keep assist and our page select. And off to the right, we have our mode, voice command, skip track, volume, favorite, and phone options. Now down below, we have 2 very important buttons. Off to the left is our drive mode button. So this will allow for normal, eco, and sport, pretty standard drive modes. However, this green button is exclusive to the GT. It's not available on the GT line, just the GT. GT. And when you put it into GT mode, this lets you fly. Now there's also a My Drive mode. That's fine. I was actually talking to the engineers that developed this system for Kia, Hyundai, and Genesis, and what they told me to do was to hold my foot in a certain position while driving in eco mode or normal mode and then hit the GT button because it remaps your pedal and it basically acts like a NOS button from the Fast and Furious movies. Around the back of the steering wheel, we do have paddle shifters, but they're actually for the regenerative braking, which if put up to the maximum will allow for one pedal driving. Off to the left, we have a climate control vent, gauge dimmer switch, charge door release, trunk release, power parking brake, and traction control off. Moving out of the door, we have the latch to get in and out, power mirrors, power locks, and power windows, all standard stuff there. Moving into the center, we do have our infotainment screen. I like how it's blended into the gauge cluster. It looks fresh and modern. However, one thing I dislike is that it does not have wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It has wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but not wireless, which is a little disheartening because the base model Kia Rio comes with wireless CarPlay, but the EV6 doesn't. It's actually a licensing issue between Kia and Apple. They have to license Apple CarPlay per size of screen, and for whatever reason, Kia doesn't have that for the full size, but on the tiny screen, they do have the licensing. We can also take a look at like our charging. We have quiet mode. We can run the climate through here, although that'll be a whole separate segment we'll talk about in a second. And I do like the screen. Here's the backup camera, which does come with a 360 camera, which everyone I drove around was very jealous of, and I absolutely loved because I have an exceedingly narrow driveway now, and so backing cars into the driveway is quite the challenge, but it's made quite easy with the EV6. Down below, we have two climate control vents and the hazard switch, and then we have our climate controls / radio buttons. Now, I was very excited to have the EV6 this week because in every video that I've done of these vehicles where you can switch between the two, I've always said I like it aesthetically, but I don't know how it would play out in real life. And so now I've lived with this vehicle for over 500 miles, over 14 hours spent in this vehicle. How does it work in real life? It's awful. It is absolutely the worst part of this EV6. The reason for it is that I cannot tell you how many times I wanted to turn the music up and it was set to climate and I'm watching the road like a responsible driver and the music doesn't turn up and I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then I just start boiling alive because I just turned the heat all the way up and to shoot at my face. At the same time, I wanted to turn my AC down, and all I did was just mute the awesome song I was listening to. I don't think there was a single time I used this and was like, oh, this panel is on exactly what I need. Also, I wouldn't bring this up unless I found forum posts of other people having the same issue. I was driving two of my friends to a wedding. Shout out to the boys. We dressed up all nice in our full suits. This will play into it. In full 3-piece matching suits. Absolutely lovely. And as we get on the highway for our hour drive to the event, the AC stopped working. It just stopped blowing cold air. No matter what we did, we hit the AC, we hit the recirculate, we hit auto, we hit every button. The AC just stopped working for the day. And at night, it came back on, but we were boiling alive in our 3-piece suits as we went to go see our close friend get married as a part of the groomsmen. So that wasn't great. The AC just stopped working for a day. And it's back now, but I have no idea why that happened. And I have seen on forum posts other people complaining about that, so that might be something you want to look into. But getting away from that, moving on to the center console, we do have heated seats and a heated steering wheel. However, no ventilated seats, we'll talk about in a second. We have the power button, our shifter, parking camera, auto holding brake, and parking sensors, as well as a wireless charger down below, and cup holders off to the right. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Kia EV6, but just like the GT line, the GT also fails. However, I do have a slight caveat to that, is that down below we get two 12-volt outlets, some inputs for USB-C and USB-A, but then we get this giant center console bin that perfectly holds a gallon of iced tea, or gallon of milk. And so I apologize to anyone on the 290 expressway that saw me raw dogging an entire gallon of iced tea while driving my EV6. I'm sure it was quite the sight to behold. But moving back up, we do have a center console with some storage in it, and moving on to the seats. The seats are very aggressive, at least in terms of a Kia product. Now, they're not Civic Type R seats, but they are pretty tight. They have higher bolsters because of that GT. Now, also because of that, you don't get ventilated seats. If you actually go down a trim level, it does have ventilated seats, but because of these seats and the seat material, no ventilated seats here in the GT for $65,000. Also, these seats are manual, I guess to save weight, but it's an EV. They're already heavy. But just so you know, at $65,000, you do get manual, unventilated seats. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats. So let's go do a backseat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2024 Kia EV6 GT, and it's very, very spacious. My knees are not hitting the seat in front of me. My head isn't hitting the ceiling. It has been an absolutely wonderful back seat. Like I mentioned with the climate controls, I took two burly Illinois State troopers in this car, big guys, and we all fit very comfortably, minus the AC issues, but we fit very comfortably spatially, and we had all of our luggage, we had our suits and ties and all of that stuff, so it was actually really, really nice. I do have two USB-C outlets down below. However, I don't have any rear climate controls, which again was one of the complaints of one of my occupants. Shout out Brandon. But we do have heated seats on the door. We have buttons for the heated seats, so you get some type of control there, but not much beyond that. Little center console here with two cup holders, but that's pretty much it. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so around the back of the EV6, press and hold here on the key fob, and it does have a power tailgate. Now, I do have a little trash bag here for my little RC car to not get the rest of the trunk muddy. But once we are back here, as you can see, pretty decent storage out of the EV6. I wouldn't say as good a storage as like the Sportage or the larger Kia SUVs. This is kind of an odd segment of SUV, if I'm being honest. However, like I said, we fit all of our luggage in here very, very easily for three big guys. Pull this up here, we do get some storage down below, a tire mobility kit, so no spare tire here in the EV6. Overall though, that is the rear trunk space of the EV6. Come up here and push the button, and it is a power operated tailgate. Now, coming up to the front, this does technically have a frunk. Pull it here, there you go. Come around the front of the vehicle like you would open up the regular hood of a car. Nothing too crazy here, a lot of EVs have this, but that's it. And so you open this up and you do get a frunk. If you wanted to put some extra pieces of paper up front, you could do that. That's all you get. So there it is. That's your storage. Now we got to talk about the looks. And I like the look of the EV6. However, I do think that it has aged incredibly rapidly in the last 2 years since I've driven one. I think this car is starting to look a little bit outdated, and the reason for that is because Kia and Hyundai have been moving so quickly in terms of design. Because this car came out, and the Ioniq 5 came out, and that was like a cool retro sort of version of this car. And now Hyundai's Santa Fe and the Kia Telluride has been redone. The Carnival has been redone. The K5. It just feels like Hyundai Motor Corporation and all of their subsidiaries are just moving so quickly when it comes to vehicle design that they end up aging really quickly. And so when this car came out, it looked like a spaceship. And now to me, it looks like regular traffic. Now that just might be me because I deal with so many cars on a daily basis, but that's just my opinion. I'm also not a fan of the matte paint because it does require a lot of extra care. You cannot take it through an automatic car wash. You can't wipe it down with a chamois. It might scratch it. And so it's a lot that goes into it. If you want my full thoughts on that, check out my Santa Fe video because that also had matte paint and I walk you through everything that goes in with it, which is a lot. However, with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving a Kia EV6 GT for the last 7 days? Well, it has been a very, very pleasurable 7 days. I've really enjoyed this car. Besides the air conditioning and that terrible radio air conditioning switch panel, which people will say, oh, you can use voice commands. I do not want to use voice commands. If I'm talking to my friend and trying to turn down the AC, I don't want to stop our conversation and say, hold on a second. Hey car, can you turn down the AC? When in previous vehicles, you just turn your finger a quarter turn and life goes on. I think using voice commands in the car 99% of the time is not what I want to do. I don't want to have to yell at my toaster to make toast. Besides that, I've really enjoyed it, and what excites me the most, in all honesty, about this car is that it really feels like a test bed for the Ioniq 5N that is now coming out this year. The Ioniq 5N is the performance version of the Hyundai Ioniq 5, which I'm hoping to get my hands on at some point this year. Believe me guys, I am trying my hardest. But this makes tons of power in an EV and delivers a very fun EV driving experience. Every time I got in this car, I would drive it in eco mode for 90% of the drive. But then on that highway on-ramp, that back road coming home from work, that night that I came home from the wedding, highways were empty, I was cruising at my own speed. That's when this vehicle came alive. And it was such a joy, so thrilling, so exhilarating to drive around. And people say, oh, EVs don't have any personality. This car, the EV6 GT, has a wicked personality. And at some point in the day, I don't know if it liked me or not, but that's a human emotion. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And a lot of EVs feel indifferent. They feel like appliances. They feel like a blank sheet of paper. But this has edge to it. This has feelings. This has emotion. And that's what's been lacking from the EV market since their conception in the late 2000s. Or at least the modern EV market that we're used to. I know, there were EVs in the early 1900s, and of course the EV1 back in 1999. But in modern vehicles, they've been very appliancey, and I think the EV6 really breaks that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I apologize, it was probably somewhat long-winded. Huge thank you to Kia and James for letting me borrow their EV6. I am so excited to work with James and the entire Kia Motor Company now to get press vehicles. This is my first Kia product, and I'm so dang excited to start working with them. I think they have some really cool stuff coming out that I'm excited to show you, but huge thank you to them. Huge thank you to G. Schmidt for facilitating the cleaning and delivery of the vehicle, and of course the Midwestern Automotive Media Association. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.